North Korea is both it's both convenient for China, but it's also exasperates China. It's convenient because it's nice to have a dictatorship that buffers against capitalist South Korea, that's always poking South Korea in the eye, Japan in the eye, the United States in the eye. That's very convenient. The problem is that China would rather have, I believe, in its heart of hearts, a kind of low-calorie communist Gorbachev-like buffer state, like what China is, like a reform-minded communist authoritarian system that would be collegial with it, where it could more finely calibrate how to put pressure on the United States and the West. But it doesn't have that. And it won't provoke regime change because China is terrified of an implosion in North Korea. It sees North Korea, I see North Korea as anarchy masquerading as tyranny for the moment. And if the tyranny implodes, you could have millions of refugees going across the Yalu and Tumen rivers into Chinese Manchuria. So the Chinese have good practical reasons to be nervous about trying to get too clever in changing the regime in North Korea. I think if North Korea, keep this in mind, all divided country scenarios in the 20th century, North-South Yemen, North-South Vietnam, East-West Germany, they all collapsed or reunited in tumultuous fashion within weeks or days, not within months or years, all in crises that not one expert in any theater ever predicted, basically. So to take North Korea's stability for granted, I think, is a very dicey bet. And what is implosion? Does implosion happen gradually over a year and we don't even notice it because there's a shift and there's more power struggles? Or is it something that happens in days or weeks with renegade commanders, say, sending artillery shells into Seoul? The way North Korea implodes could reset the balance of power in Northeast Asia. I think just a few things to keep in mind. It's generally assumed that if North Korea implodes, it's an automatic win for the West. Not so sure, because the difference between North Korea's economy and South Korea's economy is much greater than that between the East and West German economies in 1989, which means you may have a greater Korea, but it'll be a weak Korea. You could, now, a greater Korea ruled from Seoul will also be more anti-Japanese than anti-Chinese because of history. Remember, the Japanese occupied Korea for 35 years, from 1910 to 1945, in often brutal fashion. Also, South Korea's biggest trading partner is already China. So China's got a number of things going for it. And China's PLA will be necessary to stabilize any situation in the northern half of the Korean peninsula if the regime were to implode. And by needing the PLA to stabilize it, it can then make terms. It can negotiate terms for maybe a neutralized northern half of the Korean peninsula or something. So it's not altogether clear that it's a loser for China if North Korea implodes. China will find a way to benefit from it, I think.